Welcome back to the Fostering Financial Victories podcast. Appreciate you joining us again. I am joined by Kylie Felker, so the boss of the show at our office. It's been a while since you've joined us.
It has been.
Yeah, so we've got a pretty fun topic to talk about that I think is going to be pretty relevant pretty soon. We're going to talk about holiday shopping and not blowing your budget out of the water. And full disclosure, this could not be the most polar opposite discussion between you and I because you are so much different than I am on this topic. So I'm excited to hear how you approach it. So holiday shopping is a big issue with people as they get towards the end of the year and managing the expenses so they're not paying for it all the way through the first quarter of the following year. Right. How have you seen people do this really well? How have you done this in the past? And kind of give us your take on how you approach it.
So I probably start shopping in the spring of every year. And I really think about it as a full year activity. I have a gift closet.
So like March?
Oh yeah, March or April is probably when I buy my first gift. And I'm thinking about it throughout the year. And as I see things, especially if they're on sale, I love a good deal, I'll go ahead and buy it and put it in the gift closet. So I think part of it is just pacing yourself and thinking about it for as long as you can. But then I think the most important thing is making a list. And knowing how many people you have to buy for it. It's really important.
Okay, so again, polar opposites.
Yep.
You telling me you start in the spring kind of blows me away on this a little bit because I think I start within about 3 days of holidays. So again,
I'm hoping to be done 3 days before Christmas. I'm hoping to be done a week before Christmas at the latest.
If I started in the spring, I would think you'd be done, summer. Okay, so how do you start with you made the statement about a list. So I kind of think about it when you go to the grocery store buying a list, it always keeps you within a spending target.
Yep.
How do you start kind of laying that out?
So now I have an existing Excel spreadsheet, and literally I just copy it from last year to the next year. So at the end of 2020, I started 2021. And I'm thinking about things like new babies coming into the family or potential new family members, marriages, etc. We do a couple Secret Santas, so I'm leaving a space for my Secret Santa person who I won't know until later in the year. But then I'm really just trying to take what I got last year and move it forward. And that way I don't forget anybody.
So do you use there are a couple ways you can do this. So I've always heard from different folks that they might choose a certain amount of gifts for a person. Like if you have kids, it's, hey, we're going to give 2 or 3 gifts to each child, or it's a dollar amount. What's your take?
Yeah, my sister actually does that. Something you want, something you need. Oh, something to wear and something to read, I think she does as well. There's 4 gifts.
Want, need, wear, and read? Okay, that's pretty neat.
It's really neat.
Yeah.
I don't do that because I'm typically buying for adults. I've got a couple kiddos that I buy for, but mostly adults. So I usually do a monetary amount.
Okay.
And that amount could be, anywhere from, like I buy my dog a gift. I usually spend about $5 on a toy, up to about $100, or a little bit more for my husband. But I'm essentially taking whatever I spent last year and using that same number. And sometimes that number is dictated by how much I think somebody spends on me, I'll be honest.
Okay.
And sometimes that number is dictated by if they're a child, you can buy a lot more for a child than you can for an adult for that same amount of money. But realistically, I'm just copying the budget from one year to the next.
Okay. So how many people do you think you shop for?
35.
Okay, so 35 people. You got to be pretty tight on keeping the monetary side of this thing in check then, because it can get out of hand pretty fast.
You really do, and I think it's really important too. I sometimes struggle with what if you got a really good deal on something and you only spent $20 when normally you would have spent $50. I generally buy something else, which is dangerous.
Yeah, okay.
Whereas I think the right way to do it is to say I got a really great deal.
I saved on it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are the favorite things for you that you actually look forward to going and trying to find?
When I have an idea for somebody that I'm excited about that they didn't give me. So if I've seen something in a magazine, like let me give you an example of one I'm really excited for. My mother-in-law wears Crocs.
Like the rubber
they're
shoes?
back in.
I definitely know that.
I saw in a magazine a pair of boat shoes that are made out of Croc material. And so I'm going to buy them for my father-in-law. And I'm super excited about it. I know he's going to get a kick out of them because he loves to fish. And so I think it's going to be one of those gifts that he's going to open, be excited, be surprised, but then also use. So that's something I'm excited about because I found it in a magazine. I've been holding on to that magazine clipping for a couple of months just waiting to pull the trigger on them.
So you knew this one way back early in the year.
Yeah.
What if they're not in style anymore?
I'm buying them anyway.
Crocs have come in and out twice, I think.
Yeah, and I'm still not sure why they're back, full disclosure. But
They're comfortable.
They are comfortable.
They're hideous, but they're comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay. So biggest mistakes that you think people typically make when it comes down to shopping as it relates to their budget and making certain that it doesn't derail all of the other financial goals that they might have on the table. What do you think?
I think the hardest thing is using credit cards and not tracking what you're spending.
Okay.
I think credit cards are a great way to do holiday shopping because they have rewards. But you still have to be mindful of the fact that you have to pay those bills. So one of the things that I struggle with is, there are times where you just feel like you're running your credit card back and forth, and you're within that set budget. But if those bills all hit at once in that same credit card cycle, it's still going to be a bit overwhelming. So I think for me, spacing out helps with that. But I think in general, credit cards and just swiping without thinking.
So I would add to that, probably procrastinating.
Yeah.
So I'm talking to myself at this point. Could throw some budget plans out of the window because you're kind of up against the clock.
Yeah.
However, that's when they get all the deals.
True.
Right
True.
at the end. Like everything's on sale at that point.
I don't know. I'm a big Black Friday fan. Cyber Monday. You can get some great deals then too.
All right. So your favorite type of person to shop for out of the 35?
Kids.
Kids?
Kids are the best. And I think kids because, first of all, their gifts are less expensive, but also there's some really cool kid toys. They make neat things. You can find neat websites that they haven't shopped at before. And the genuine thrill of a child unwrapping a gift is hard to compare to.
Everything's kind of new as well.
Yeah.
You haven't gotten a lot of things.
Yeah, toys are a lot more fun these days. I feel like I just had blocks and Barbies and American Girl dolls.
Yeah.
Now they have a lot of things.
Yes, they do. So having a house full of kids, I can tell you that it's very interesting during the holiday season as far as what actually shows up and what they actually enjoy using.
Yeah.
And how long it happens to stick around.
I've heard some parents hide gifts and then bring them back out so that kids don't get too overwhelmed. Have you ever done that?
What do you mean? So
like here's 5 gifts you can play with today, and we're going to hide a couple of others and then bring them out when you get bored of the first 5.
I mean, that's kind of how it is at our house anyway, because they'll find something that's been in our house for 2 years and all of a sudden it's new again.
Right.
But it's, it's already been beaten up a good bit. Or they may not find it because it got tossed. That could happen too. All right. So from a giving perspective during the holidays, it is also a time where people generally want to be charitable.
Yes.
Do you guys put any sort of a combination factor with giving gifts along with being charitably inclined at the end of the year?
We don't. That's another thing we budget for throughout the year. So we take a percentage of our income and donate it every year, and we have a couple of charities that we kind of tend to give to. So we try to do that earlier in the year, if I'm honest, whether that's because they send a mailer and that's when I think of it or not. But I do try to do that earlier in the year, so I'm not thinking about that towards the end of the year. That's not to say, the Santas or the Salvation Army or those kind of bins. I think I still get lopped into that,
Sure.
just like everybody else. But the bigger gifts, I think we're trying to get out of the way before Christmas.
Well, I think at the end of the year, too, most people are thinking about all of and maybe this shouldn't be the way they think about it, but the tax benefits of giving
Yes.
money to charities or
Right.
churches or, whomever.
Whoever.
And that sometimes gets lumped in with their holiday spending. Okay, so as talking through the charitable giving piece a little bit more, so I've run across a few friends of mine who, we've kind of are at a point where we don't really, like, what are you going to buy me, right? So what can you give me that I either haven't already bought myself or haven't already had, right? So some of the charitable stuff starts to come into play of, hey, instead of buying a gift, give money to XYZ.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts as far as how people might position that?
I think that's a great idea. I know there's some charities where you can buy farm animals in foreign countries and they can help families start a farm. I think there's some really neat ways to do that. Another way that I'll do that is through buying gifts from nonprofits. So there's a lot of organizations in third world countries that make it really easy to support female business owners or people that are crafting. And it's not necessarily a charitable gift, but it's a way to support people and buy something neat that you wouldn't be able to find in the U.S. So I think that's a great way to do it as well.
I think another interesting way to do this with younger kids that we have found to be fun for them are the angel trees or
Yes.
sending boxes, the Samaritan's boxes. They seem to really enjoy the process of that. And, I guess it is more of a teaching element to it as well.
Yeah, I love that. I always grab an angel off the tree.
Yeah.
Also because I love to buy for children. So
There you
there's
go.
that too.
So you start in the spring, which again is crazy to me. Wrapping gifts. All right. So you start early. I assume you don't have the late minute rush of making sure all the stuff's ready to be given. How do you start doing this?
Well, it's funny you say that. I am actually a terrible wrapper because I am not very patient. But my husband is phenomenal. So what I usually do is, pry him with a glass of wine or two, and on a Saturday we just wrap everything. It takes a long time, but we do have an advantage that he actually enjoys it. He's very good at it. His corners are seamless, and I hate it.
Yeah, I cannot do that.
No. I use too much tape. I get it everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, it rips.
Yes.
Or I end up patching it with another color. It's great. My family always knows when I wrap it because it looks like a 2-year-old did it.
I'm also a big fan of bags. Bags always look good.
Bags are good. All right, so from a resource perspective, do you like going, do you find it more efficient to go in-person shopping, or do you like the online stuff?
I like online shopping, and I think part of that is because I like to look for deals. So I'm a big fan of Ratucan, by the way. That's my hack. If you start there, it'll take you to any website, and it'll let you know if there's any coupons available, and then you get cash back too.
What's it called?
Ratucan. I think I'm saying that correctly.
Ratucan.
Yeah. But so that's a great place to start online shopping, and make sure you're maximizing the deals. But I like online shopping because I can look at a couple different things. I can, put something in my cart and then come back to it later. So that's something I try to do a lot. But I think there's also great local boutiques in Greenville. So one of my favorite places to go is Mass General Store. They have the most random and eclectic kitchen gadgets and random toys for kids. So I think when I know what I want to get somebody, online shopping is great. When I know somebody loves a store, online shopping is great. If I'm just looking for ideas, I'm flipping through magazines or going to local places.
Yeah, that's a good idea from a store in town that literally has everything.
Everything. They even have candy or outdoor equipment.
Lots
everything.
of candy.
Yeah.
Barrels of candy.
Yes.
My kids love going
A
there.
little dangerous, yeah.
Yes. All right, so for somebody who is starting this out, maybe they didn't start in the spring, like you do. So maybe it's just, again, me talking to myself. If you're starting now, to make sure that this goes to where you're not panicked,
Yes.
do you put a target as far as when do you want to be done?
Yes and no. I mean, ideally, I'm waiting for the sales for Black Friday or Cyber
Okay.
Monday, right?
Okay.
So you can't be done too much sooner than that. But I would say those first couple of weeks of December, I'm trying to wrap it up.
Do you get up at like 3 a.m. and go?
No. I
Okay.
sit on the couch in pajamas with a cup of coffee.
Okay. All right. I was just checking.
Yeah, no.
All
I'm
right.
a big online shopper during that week. That's a crazy week, and sometimes people aren't, super nice in the stores. So online shopping at your leisure, big fan.
Is there a gift that you have ever purchased for somebody or given that you look back and like, I nailed that? Like, that was perfect.
Yes, there's something called a Wonder Bag. And so my in-laws, again, they love to camp. And there's a Wonder Bag that kind of acts like a crock pot, but it cooks meals, and you can just set it on any surface because it's cushion or padded, I guess you could say. But I found it. Part of the proceeds go to a nonprofit, so it's for a great cause. But literally, you can throw a whole bunch of stuff in the morning. It's done by the end of the day, and you don't need any electricity. And my mother-in-law loved it, and it was a great gift. And she still talks about using it. And yeah, that was one of those where it was fun to buy because it looked cool, but it was also very practical and functional. So
That's going to be one that kind of hard to one up.
Yeah, that was about 3 years ago. I have definitely underperformed since.
So, if you're listening, Wonder Bag, and Crocs, and Ratucan, we would like some sponsorships if you'd like to.
I've got a lot of great ideas.
I mean, we could plug this right now. Okay, so let's stop it there. I think this was pretty neat to share some stories on shopping. Again, I'm the person who shops literally the 2 days before the holidays, so couldn't be more opposite. You know the questions that we ask everybody, so I'm going to ask you again.
Okay.
Last 2 things you spent money on.
So I am pregnant. So I actually just bought some onesies for our soon-to-be son. Those are my first onesies that I purchased. So I feel pretty good about the fact that I haven't overspent yet.
Yeah.
And then something on Amazon. Hard to say what. But there's a box on my porch, so I know it's Amazon.
Well, there's always a box on my porch.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I got home at 8 o'clock last night, and the Amazon guy met me at the door.
Yeah.
It's great. Okay. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate you spending some time with us. I know you got a busy day. If you have questions or topics or suggestions that you would like us to cover, you can email us. So you can find us straight on our website at fostervictorwa.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at Foster Victor Wealth Advisors. Again, share this with anybody who you think might find this funny or interesting or helpful. Hope to see you again. Thanks. Information contained in this podcast was intended for general use, not to be used as specific advice. For content tailored to your personal situation, please contact one of our wealth coaches.